I know we talked about it a little bit, but I'm still like curious of what your guys predict the timeline is. Like, are we coming to a wipe? Is the nuke event real? Like, was this something that was completely spun up by Nice Guy and the cult, the Sons of Soon? Were we on too much PCP in that cult meeting that night? I don't know. Okay. I'm not saying we were or weren't, but
I mean, yeah, you're the one that got the t-shirt, right? But
Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast. We continue to focus on the development of the game, patch note analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussions. My name is Church. I'm one of your hosts. I am a video editor for Rockmom and Airwing Marine.
I'm GigaBeef, a Tarkov YouTuber helping you guys improve at the game that we know and love called Escape from Tarkov. And today we welcome onto the show Gigo First. I was trying not to mess up the name, or otherwise known as Evan.
Correct.
Probably call you that from now on. But welcome, man. Thanks for joining us. I guess I'll just jump in and ask you to introduce yourself for everybody who may or may not be familiar with what you do and who you are.
All right. Well, thank you. As stated before, I'm Gigo First. I am an Escape from Tarkov sort of 3D content creator. More so 3D than content creator. I've been around the community since 0.7, and I've just been enjoying and playing this game since then.
Wow, 0.7. When is that? What's the time? What's the year for that?
I think it was late 2017. So I think I bought the game alpha in September of 2017.
Okay.
And I wasn't able to play it until the beta opened the year after. So I have that alpha armband, but I'm still a standard edition account, which is always a funny thing to see.
Is that because it was a closed alpha?
Yes, it was a closed alpha. You could only get into the closed alpha if you had EOD.
Interesting.
But you could buy the game as alpha or as like the standard edition.
Which would get you the beta access. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Okay, so yes, and you never upgraded to EOD then? You stayed as standard?
I haven't upgraded to EOD. I've sort of been enjoying the standard edition and all the problems that come with it. The only thing that really sucks is smaller stash, in my opinion. But that's not that bad of a thing.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of got better because you can do stash upgrades now, as you never used to be able to at all. So you were just kind of stuck.
Whereas the hideout was one of my most I was extremely happy for the hideout as you could upgrade your stash finally. Finally store more of that precious good loot.
Yeah, it's nuts. So are you kind of like, are you like professionally like a 3D kind of guy? Is that what you do and then you translate that to Tarkov, or is it just like strictly a hobby?
I would say it's strictly a hobby.
Okay,
I'd definitely say it's strictly a hobby. Eventually, I most likely will be getting into the industry at large, but currently, I am just having fun. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. That is awesome. That is awesome. I think just before we drill down into everything, because I'd actually really interested in this thing, because it's something that I really have like no real understanding of exactly how people do the stuff they do, because it is actually insane. And the fact that it's become kind of like the sort of the new meta trend of having that kind of like the 3D modeling and the high definition renders and that kind of thing within, especially the YouTube community with thumbnails and stuff like that. So it'll be fascinating. But before we move on, we must talk about the Tarkov news first. An absolute must. We had the craziest week of hype and all sorts of other things. Let's just address the big one straight up first, right? All sorts of stuff going on. YouTube thumbnails changing around on this premiere that we had with like all this, cult style lore and text and everything going on. You have like Nice Guy and his people just like scouring through Wikipedia for like nuclear weapons with the blue flame and all this. And I love the dedication that they put into this stuff, by the way. I think it's super, super fun.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that people are that interested and involved that they want to go out of the way and try and piece stuff together beforehand. And even if they're wrong, it doesn't matter, right? It's the process that's kind of entertaining.
By the way, I don't know if you guys saw, my cord's getting caught. I'm an official cult member.
Oh my goodness! You have a pray for white
Pray for white,
T-shirt.
yeah.
That is great. I love that.
I saw that merch and I was like, dude, I'm buying this.
Is
Is like
that
a
part of
piece
the
of
Sun?
history. Yeah, it's part of
Is that-
Sun and Soons.
That's what I thought. All right. I have to go take a look at that again. That is hilariously great.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I'm sorry, I had like a bad shot for the video viewers, but it's pray for white. I don't think there's anything on the back. It's really weird to get the angle and shot, but yeah,
Great
I love it.
I loved it, dude. He has a bunch of other designs, but yeah, I love it. Piece of history in my mind.
Very much piece of this game's history.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So, I mean, actually, to be fair, Church, I think kind of, did you call it? Did you actually call it before? I think it was like Church and maybe Pestily, who actually called it beforehand.
I heard, someone told me Pestily called it. It was honestly a shot in the dark. I was sitting there thinking, so I remember seeing, actually, Evan, you posted something on Twitter where you took the pixelated, because the original thumbnail was the pixelated map, and then what did you do with it, Evan? You did something clever.
So the original thumbnail was the picture of the fake Escape from Tarkov map. I would love to get into this later, but that map is not correct as what it is in game. But that map, it was like the bottom right hand corner section of that map was blurred out, and they added like a new, what looked to be like a level thing. You could select a level on that map.
Yes.
Because of that, and since it was so blurred out that no one could tell exactly what it was, I had the great idea of quote unquote AI upscaling, just grabbing the actual assets, and making a Thursday soon TM as the AI upscaled, sort of thing, and just posted that onto my Twitter, and it was interesting.
I saw that.
I thought it was really funny.
I was like, because AI is like, I'm really interested in AI lately, and I was like, man, this actually, I think he's trolling, but this could be a thing. And then I saw it say Thursday. I was like, okay, he's trolling.
Yeah. It is not AI upscaled. It was a meme. I built that by hand.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, so, I thought that was excellent, but yeah.
I saw that, and it made me realize that potentially, because as you said, Evan, it's like a fake part of the map. Like the way, because the original thought was like, some people were saying, oh, this is like a nuclear missile flying in. And I was like, okay, I could see that. But then I was remembering back to like when they did Arena, got leaked into a patch. Like it just actually got copy pasted over or whatever. And it was like a playable, it was basically their like testing playground.
It was their dev map.
Yes.
It was their dev map. It had nothing to do with Arena. It was literally just their dev map.
But it was like an actual location somewhere like, north left. So I thought, well, maybe they're teasing like, here's where Arena's located. It's on this new part of the map previously not seen. So I was like, nah, maybe. And then I was like, you know what? I want to put it out there somewhere as like shot in the dark, I was like, I was going to put some Twitter, but I was whatever. And it was really just a guess, because as the newer screenshots coming out, I was like, yeah, that was definitely just a guess from me. It's probably more likely this whole nice guy cult theory they got going on, Mothman. I think one posted that where it's like he put them all together and like mirrored them. It would look like a person. Someone did an Among Us one, dude. The memes.
Yeah, I saw the Among Us one.
I loved it, dude. I love the memes from the community, man. It just makes everything so much better.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But so we had so much hype. We had the rotating thumbnails on the YouTube Premiere video. There were codes in the thumbnails. And they were disappearing as fast as they were coming too. So if you actually redeemed the codes using the promo code thing on the website, you got different sets of random things. The first one was like the golden 1G phone as well, which like references back to like Rizzy and all of the letters maybe, and they're saying, be prepared and blah blah blah. And then we come to the end and the premiere happens and it's just like we're announcing Arena, guys. And everyone was like,
Yeah.
we like Arena. That's great. But what happened to the nuke?
What happened to the
like
lore that they put on the table? That's my question.
Yeah,
because there was a lot of lore in those messages, right?
And I think this is from the sensible section of the community who look into this stuff and are not just molding the whole time, right? I think that the sensible answer for most people, and this is my answer, and I've seen this said a few places, is that I'm excited for Arena. Arena is a great announcement. I'm slightly confused as to the lore build-up that they did for it. That's
right.
that's the thing, because that's fine, right? You can enjoy the lore, you can enjoy Arena, and also be confused by how this actually ended up getting revealed, which is definitely my take on it. It's a little strange, but maybe this isn't the end of the. It's a bit weird. It's just strange, right? It's like I don't know why they would choose to do it in this particular order or format or what's coming next. I'm not sure. It's very odd, but Arena's cool. And then also for it to be saying, oh, it's going into testing in 3 months kind of thing as well. It's like maybe it's a bit premature. I don't know. That's sort of the measured, but sort of optimistic, but also kind of take, I think.
In my opinion, being around this community or at least this game enough, it's definitely a BSG take on releasing or showcasing something. I know of no other company who does something like this and then expects or releases a trailer for something 6 months after they release a bunch of lore stuff that at least currently right now does not go with what they've released.
Yeah, it's almost like they have one idea, like we're gonna tease Arena, and then they were like, wait, what if we tease something else? And then they got closer to the date and are like, we gotta push it back by 45 minutes, when it's not ready. And then it's like getting down to the wire and they're like, okay, we gotta go back to the Arena thing. We gotta go back to the Arena thing. Just drop the lore.
We've got a 1 minute 45 Arena video good to go. Let's just send that out.
Dimitri, slap together some clips. I don't care what you gotta do, just slap them together.
Yeah. Actually, I feel like what really happened was was it back in I think it was back when they did the dev podcast for the revolver, like the patch with the revolver. Nikita said that like almost everything was ready and should be done soon, of course the famous words of soon, with Lighthouse, the Lighthouse expansion. And I feel like they wanted to do the Lighthouse expansion yesterday yesterday is when this release trailer happened, but I feel like because of either tech debt or something else within within the development caused them to be like, we cannot release this currently. We've already promised or started to show all these other things. We might as well show them something at least. And that's where Arena came out, because I feel like this Arena trailer should be out maybe 3 months from now, closer to when they're actually going to let people try it out, rather than hey guys, half a year later Arena's out.
Yeah, because it is a teaser for a chance for people to test it. It's not an open test, I assume. I think it's going to be some form of ETS. So it's kind of a weird teaser. It's like, almost like an alpha trailer in a way, of like a sub game, I don't know. Maybe it's like a full feature game they're going for. I'm not really too sure in the details, but that's interesting. I can see that.
I can see this. Yeah. I can see Arena being the esports arm of Tarkov, or at least what they're trying to do with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So in that sense, I can understand why they're putting so much time and effort into it. I mean, I hope they put so much time and effort into it. I hope it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could really open out the game in general for. We've talked about Arena before, but just exactly that, right? You got a more esports, more controlled environment where you don't have to sacrifice things in the main game. You're not having to make design compromises between regular Tarkov and Arena. You can just do the best for both in either game, and they're different enough that people would either play both, or you have some people would only play the one. I mean, there was lots of people saying that Arena may well bring in lots of guys from Warzone, Apex, whatever, who like never really bothered with main Tarkov, but now it's got a standalone arena mode that's also probably going to be relatively cheap compared to the main game. It is much more compelling for people to just dip into that instead. And I guess because they've got Tarkov already, like they're doing the higher server tick rates and all these things, better networking and blah blah blah, which you would imagine would help the main game of Tarkov 2, but they already got a lot of the assets already completed, right? So they're just making tweaks on something they've already got most of ready. And with smaller maps, it should be a bit easier. And then they're basically getting some extra money, maybe from people who never actually played Tarkov in the first place. So it could actually be really huge for the player base.
Yeah, I really like having more options for different types of players. I just think that's a win-win, and yeah, I love it. I'm excited for what it will bring to the general game itself, the Tarkov brand, I guess. It's good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, they did say that some of the stuff that they're going to do in there will actually feed back into main Tarkov. And it is a bit weird that now that they're not, again, it's a very BSG thing to do these like super early teasers. I do wish that they just like followed up more quickly, because you get this momentum and then you kind of just want them to hit it, and say, well, okay, now it's been released, right? So people can, or test it at least. The first iteration is now released. Go and try it now, because people are going to just sort of sit on this for 3 months and thinking, okay, well, we're thinking about Lighthouse expansion first, and then when first iteration of Streets coming, and they're thinking about that stuff instead, rather than hit people when the player base is in kind of a low spot and hit them with the first iteration of Arena. It's all seems kind of like the timing's not necessarily the best for it. But that being said, maybe because I've been working on that kind of stuff, maybe that's partly where we got the networking interpolation change this week, because that's actually, a lot of people have been saying it's really good. I've played a bit. I've never been one to complain that much about lag and desync anyway. So, I mean, sometimes it's really obvious and sometimes less so. I've been playing a lot of Factory, so I guess it would be obvious. It's one of those things that's hard to know, because unless you're playing duos all the time and watching your buddy, which I'm not, you're not seeing PMCs on your screen all the time. So it's hard to know as well whether people are like stuttering around and things. But I haven't seen any like funky behavior since the thing went through. And a lot of other people on Twitter seem to be having a good time with it. So it's yeah, I don't know. It seems positive, at least, and I like that idea of the feedback loop between Arena and our game here.
For sure. Any optimization they do or learn inside Arena, if anything, can be cross pollinated or applied to the main game. That doesn't cost resources, as far as like user resources or extra server resources. I don't know, but if it's like basically free. We did this optimization in the ETS, can we put this in the main game? Like that's huge. That's great. I saw Jesse posted a video. I think it got retweeted by Nikita, or quote tweeted by Nikita, actually.
Yeah, it did.
And because he had a video a long time ago where because he plays a lot of duos, right? And I think it was like Sealable Bag. He had him running around and like, guys, chat, look at this. Look how bad this is. And of course it's like the weird legs morphing into each other and stutter stepping, whereas now it's like just smooth. It's like, wow, that's really impressive. I mean, I guess it's like some type of animation networking thing. I don't know. It's I'd be really like, the behind the scenes stuff always interests me, but I one quick thing I want to say is I would love to see some testing on the quick peeking around corners, like especially the tapping the E or Q key, whichever angle I guess it's mostly E because it's the right side peek, because the old abusive method was where you just spam E and then you shoot in between the leaning in and out rapidly. And what they see is like, if they get the chance to see you, they may see like your arm, like a part of your arm, and that's all they ever see. Like in some cases, you don't even see them, you just die and you're like, what? So I would love to see if any of that is applicable to the movement or the leaning mechanics and whatnot.
I will definitely say that the most recent networking change seems like it's because of Arena, or at least like what they're trying to work on with Arena. But what I'm more interested about is how far does that... It seems like it's interpolating correctly now, which is like the term of going correctly going from one place to another smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's interpolating correctly now. I'm wondering if that changes over distance as well, because I normally play like a long range sniping sort of, class. I sort of hunt people down at 100 meters, doing dumb things. And like the biggest annoyance when you're doing that, the biggest annoyance is people jumping around, randomly, either because of, lag, desync, whatever.
Right.
You can't hit a shot on someone who's teleporting around. And if this, I haven't tried sniping with the most recent changes, as that's not the quest that I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see if that's actually changed, because maybe I'll actually go back to doing that, because I stopped because I kept missing shots as people were teleporting around or like jittering around.
Yeah, that's really frustrating.
It's awful, right? Yeah, it's one of the worst things, because that's the problem. It's like if somebody's going, it's hard enough to snipe anyway, right? You're having to like lead shots and maybe even hold over, depending on what kind of zeroing or range you're using, how much you trust the zero, I don't know. And as people are moving, you're then trying to predict, right? But then if they suddenly go up and then jump across, there's just no way to to actually predict where they're going to go. It makes it so hard.
Yeah, how are you supposed to predict the teleport?
Right.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
It just throws you off completely. So hopefully, if that's fixed, I haven't really been doing any sniping, as I said. It's been point blank. Like normally, I think there's the two things. It's like you're looking at somebody at really long range, and they're just doing the little teleport thing. It makes it really hard to figure out what's going on. Or the other one is if you're really, really close and you run into a room where you're fighting someone, they're coming up the stairs, you're coming down the stairs, and they're firing at like 90 degrees to you, and then you fall over and die. That kind of thing, where you on their screen they're hitting you, but on your screen they're firing completely somewhere totally different, because it's that desynchronization. So maybe that won't be any better necessarily, but hopefully the teleportation section will be improved dramatically, because that'd be really good. And it does seem to be. I think Jesse put something up on his Twitter showing a comparison. I don't know what footage he had from before. Maybe it was from another thing that he'd done with Veritas or something, and then he had afterwards, and it looked really good actually, looking at his duo partner walking. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Evan.
All right.
I've seen you mentioned, you said you do some stupid things with sniping. I've seen your clips.
I know where this is going.
With Shooterborn in Heaven featuring AP-20 slugs, and I gotta say you earn my respect. And last week we talked about this subject, zeroing shotguns and whatnot, and how you have to aim lower because of the whatever. It's madness. But my question for you, something that I asked Giga, is have you noticed, and for me, I noticed this specifically at distance, but when players are running, the way they like hold their gun, it looks like they're loading a Mosin. Is this something you noticed? Am I crazy?
I've noticed that with some guns. It's normally to do with like longer. It's normally to do with like longer guns where I feel like the left arm is like really far down the barrel, sort of like holding it really far down the barrel, which makes it look, because I'm almost for certain. I don't know this certainly. I do not know if this is true or not, but I feel like how animations are done, at least in the third person, it's rotating the hands on like a pivot point, like near their chest, instead of like, and so that like kick, because the left hand is like so far out and the right hand is so close, and they're like trying to rotate it, it like kicks out the right hand, looking like it's, the right hand's trying to reload something. That's what I feel that might be happening. I don't know for sure. I would have to test that. But if I had to guess, that's what I would guess would be happening. And yes, I've noticed a little bit of that.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, that kind of, I can totally see that now. Yeah.
But then again, like 3 pixels on your screen is a little bit.
yeah, that's fair.
Thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not really much of a shotgun sniper, but it was interesting. I think I slowly just got beaten down by the number of people every time you do like a budget guide, they're just like, I just use super performance rounds in a shotgun. And I was just like, ugh, okay, fine, I'll look at it. And it's like, but eventually just get ground down by people being like, I use FTX slugs at 200 meters. It's like, eventually, after enough people say something, you're like, maybe there is something in this. If enough people are finding some success or whatever, like I'm definitely not proficient at all with it. And I think I spent like most of the stream just trying to do it, just messing around either with rip slugs and trying to hit people at like distance, because that was the issue, was trying to fight people or find people at distance and not close up with the slugs, because that was kind of the point. And I only had like one fight where I actually ended up killing anybody. I was like, oh, this is actually really rough if you're not used to it. So yeah, it's definitely not easy.
So here's the thing. When I was doing Shooterborn Heaven with only a shotgun, which I finished, by the way, all 12 kills have been done with a MP153 and super performance rounds because they have the highest accuracy. I didn't touch AP20. I didn't touch RIP. I didn't touch RIP because of the flesh damage. I didn't want to kill people with flesh damage because you're trying to hit the head.
Right.
But with super performance, because of the accuracy, because of everything else, and because of the bullet speed, it's completely off on any scope you use if you put it on the MP153, because it flies faster than the majority of the other rounds. In every single clip that you see me do, I zeroed for nothing. I didn't touch my zero, so my zero was at 50 with a voodoo scope, or not. Is it the voodoo that was like the 1 to 6x? I think it was like the voodoo. It's the one that Pastilli used to use all the time.
The Valde?
Probably that one. I think it's probably. I thought it would be the voodoo.
Actually, no. The voodoo is not able to go on because it's the one. The voodoo wasn't able to go on.
Oh, it must be the Valde then.
It's the Valde. Yeah, that's the one that I'm thinking of. The Valde, you have to aim 2 dots above, so the 2 dots on top is from 0 to 150 meters with super performance, which
weird.
Does not seem correct. But
I just cannot stand trying to aim low. Everything's wrong, right? It's even worse than trying to shoot people in the legs rather than accidentally hitting them in the thorax with rip, right? It's just like, it's even worse than that. Just like shooting low is just like, it's just so bad. Like I remember, I'm just so trained for it. Like back in PUBG and things, you'd always shoot, high over targets, and then in Tarkov as well most of the time. And I'm just so trained for it. It's, unless you're really purposeful about it and really diligent in thinking, right, I'm going to use this particular dot at these ranges, and then it makes sense. That's the only way, I think, because I mean, I've definitely been known to go in with a Glock 18C with RIP with a 50-round drum, get distracted talking to chat, run in and just try and thorax people with it. Like it happens constantly. So mad props. At least with AP, it's a little bit better. The AP slugs, it's not quite as bad because they're not quite as fast.
AP slugs are more forgiving because you can hit the thorax. Super performance and RIP, you have to either hit flesh or you're doing nothing. With super performance, you'll hit the legs twice, and they'll have at 100 meters, they'll have around 40 health or around 30 health. With RIP, they'll die up to 75 meters no matter where you shoot them, as long as you hit flesh with 2 shots.
Yeah, it's pretty bonkers.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And with an MP153, you can accurately hit RIP up to 50 meters on legs. Or not 50, 100 meters on legs, 50 meters to the head. It is disgustingly good for how dumb it sounds.
I know, this is the thing. It's just like, I almost would love to do that as like a squad or something, because then you've got one guy who's just like literally chunking like over 50% of your health at one point. But you don't necessarily want that to be like the only guy. You know what I mean? If you're playing solo with it, it's quite tricky. I ran around with like solo RIP in the revolver for a while, and it just trying to get into the right situation is so difficult to actually make it work. But it can be amazing, I think, if you get the right. If you get used to the playstyle, I think it can be good. But it always is one of those things when you first start trying to do it, you have to take a few steps back before you start making progress. It's like every time I come back around to doing the Bolty quest and I use the VPO Bolty with the AP ammo in factory, I always die like 3 or 4 raids in a row because I'm just not really in the mindset for it. And then I'm probably after that, I'm like, right, corner, peek and run away, peek and run. You have to try and like absolutely minimize the ability for them to see you. And you just take like 1 shot and then just disappear off into the distance. It's that kind of different with the shotgun, but it's that kind of thing where you have to get used to the playstyle of that particular weapon. Otherwise, you just end up running into other people with more flexible guns, and then they kill you. That's my experience, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I will be doing Shooter in Heaven next wipe with a very different gun. As long as it's not changed. I hope it gets changed because this the GL is completely broken currently in my eyes, as you can hit a 500-meter shot with it accurately. And
well,
it's a GL.
I'm not super familiar with the GL because I've not really used it very much.
Right.
But maybe it's worth it because if you kill somebody with it, you get a headshot, right? Because the head dies first.
I do not know if that's the case.
I've seen someone getting shootable in heaven using one of the mounted MGs.
Yeah.
Right. I know for the mounted MGs, and I did that in the past. I got a Shooter in Heaven kill with a mounted MG, and it was a headshot. I don't know if it does that with the
GL.
Was it GL grenades?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a smaller explosion radius, or I'm pretty sure it is.
Maybe there is a chance that you don't get that then as frequently. Because I know with grenades as well, yeah, if you catch somebody with a nade, often you end up getting a headshot with that too. For kind of the same reason. If they're in the blast zone, right, and not within the instant death section, because if you're in the instant death, you just die. But if you're in that kind of fringe period where you could take that splash damage, then you'll often get a headshot there too. So it's kind of weird. It's strange the way the mechanic works.
Yeah. But yeah, no, if you want to complete Shooter in Heaven currently and you don't want to do something like a bolt action, and you want to completely meme around, the GL40, you slap the 1 to 4x like really garbage quote unquote really garbage EOTech on it, like the one that has the like flip over sight.
Oh, okay.
You slap that on because that's
the one with the 3 dot thing going on.
Yeah, it's a 3 dot thing, and you flip it over, and because it becomes a magnification scope, and then if you flip it off, it becomes like a normal EOTech red dot, or a holographic sight, and you just slap that on, and the zeroing is correct. Although you'll see that it's a little bit janky and wrong, and I hope they don't remove it because of it. But the zeroing is correct, and you just use the zeroing. And it'll work up to 200 meters, and you'll hit your GL shots. You'll have to lead because the GL is slow. It's like 160 meters per second currently. But yeah, it is. I mean, you can hit a 200-meter shot with a GL consistently, and it's AOE. It insta kills, and it's really stupid to do.
Can't wait to see those clips on Twitter.
You're giving me ideas. It's dangerous.
That's the whole point.
You're actually piquing my interest. This is genuinely danger.
Like, legitimately, if you have the money, because GLs are expensive. They're like almost $1 million currently to use. So it's expensive to use. But if you really want to have some fun with doing Shooter in Heaven, running a GL with, there's this one round that gives you like plus 15% accuracy. It's like one of the 30 to 50 meter rounds. You just run that, you run a GL, and you just have some fun. It's been some of the most fun that I've had, just because I know the man on the other side. Like, I know the dude who I just killed is completely pissed off and completely confused because they didn't hear, like, you can pretty much hear the GL like fire off a shot up to 50 meters. But if you just die and then you hear the GL, it's like, where was this guy? How did I die?
Yeah.
Why am I dead currently? Sort of stuff like that. And I think that's always just hilarious.
That guy's hacking. I just died. What the frick?
Hey, I killed people 200 meter plus with super performance slugs out of an MP153 with a white name.
Oh yeah,
and I wasn't able to use
the
I wasn't able to use the flea market for a little bit. So, I wouldn't say that I haven't been reported. I'm almost certainly that I have multiple times. I just think it's always funny that sort of happens.
So I want to circle back to the Tarkov news real quick, and in that, I want to talk about a little bit more about the nuke event. I say the nuke event, like, I just want to get your guys' takes on, do you think it's like, I know we talked about it a little bit, but I'm still like curious of what your guys predict the timeline is. Like, are we coming to a wipe? Is the nuke event real? Like, was this something that was completely spun up by Nice Guy and the cult, the Sons of Soon? Were we on too much PCP in that cult meeting that night? I don't know. Okay, I'm not saying we were or weren't, but you know.
I mean, yeah, you're the one that got the T-shirt, right? But that aside, look, okay. I mean, I'm not sure if I have a take on it anymore, actually, which is kind of weird. But I think after the last set of events and the Lightkeeper thing being led up to nothing, this event I was definitely much more taking the sort of I'm just watching what happens and just following along rather than necessarily picking something, because the more like nothing really seems to make sense anymore, and I can't pass any information out of the information that we have been given, because nothing makes sense. The outcomes of the build-ups don't make any sense, and so now I'm just really confused because we've got Lighthouse expansion,
right?
Soon TM. We have Streets of Tarkov first iteration by autumn TM. We have arena mode first test in 3 months or whatever. Did they say August or September?
I want to say they said in autumn.
Yeah, they said autumn, which is up to December. So
okay,
expect 6 months minimum.
Yeah, and so now I'm just thinking, well, I don't really know. This is the problem. I don't really know what makes sense now, because you kind of want to wipe soonish, but if you release the Lighthouse expansion now, I guess you could still have a month before wipe. That can still happen. I think I'm still like, I just can't see any other way of it happening other than Lighthouse expansion happening and then a period of time and then the wipe. But then they're saying, oh well, Street's first iteration before autumn, but they wanted to do that with the wipe. Maybe it's a really long wipe. I don't know anymore. Nothing makes sense.
I feel like we're rapidly approaching a need for a Tarkov TV. Or something from Nikita, you know. I don't know.
Which he said, right? He said,
I know,
Tarkov TV, question mark? And everyone's just like, please? And then he's just like, radio silence.
I thought he said that it was going to be this upcoming week, though. I remember hearing it somewhere. Maybe I heard it wrongly, but I thought I remember hearing it that it was coming up somewhat later this week. I'm pretty sure during the like summer. It's not the Summer's Games Fest that's going on currently. What's the like? Nikita or BSG like posted the eyes emoji on like the
that's the Summer Game Fest thing. Is that the 9th?
I think it's the 9th.
I think 8th. It was like 8th, 9th, 8th to 12th.
Yeah, so something like that. On the 25th, Nikita posted Tarkov TV next week maybe ?
Which we are currently almost ending that week. Wait. Yeah, we are almost ending that week.
May the 25th was what? Yeah.
Last week.
Last Wednesday.
Last week. Yeah.
Right?
So I guess we're missed it.
So yeah, don't know. And then he said about Streets iteration before autumn, right now performance. Then he posted the GL. Then he posted all the new streamer items, which we haven't really touched on yet, but I guess it would be quick, but we can talk about that in a moment. Then he said Marina. Someone asked him 22 hours ago where Lighthouse expansion, and he said soon. Literally just soon.
No freaking way. He said soon. Oh my god, this changes everything.
He said soon.
Guys,
he said soon.
That gives him a 5-year window to do something.
Exactly. And then he posted an awesome picture of a gladiator, and the face looks really good actually. The I don't know if that's like an in-game. Well, I know it's just pasted over something else, isn't it? It's the actual gladiator thing from the film. Right. I didn't actually look at it closely the first time. But anyway, that's what Nikita's been up to and what he's been saying. So, what can we glean from this, Church? I can't get any more information out of this. Honestly, I have stopped guessing for now. I still think it makes sense to do Lighthouse expansion and then to do the wipe after that. But, I don't know. Like, because it's totally plausible that they could do Lighthouse expansion and a wipe now, and then the first iteration of Streets in January next year. Like that's becoming plausible, right? I think you want to separate them out, do you want Streets with a wipe? Maybe, probably. I would think so.
They said they would wipe with Streets though, so They will wipe
Yeah.
with like 1.0 or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. The wipe with the first iteration of streets. I think it makes sense to not wipe for the lighthouse trader, but maybe they do. But then in the law, they're saying, oh, the lighthouse is empty for the foreseeable future from Tagilla. So whether that actually means anything, or whether that's just a law thing, I also don't know.
All I have to say on like the topic is I've stopped guessing on dates for the whole reason of the streets meme. I've been there since the inception of it. I have seen the 5+ years of development on streets, or at least what they've shown, and it is because of like every single time it's like, hey, this is the around the time that we want to release it, and it almost never happens. I've stopped guessing on dates. It's like there's no reason to guess on a date that's never going to, that could or could not happen, as literally anything, it normally gets delayed. I'm expecting it to get delayed. I wouldn't be too surprised if that's what happened. I have more fun guessing what they're going to add and what they're going to do for lore, just because that's more interesting to me. Like, if they're going to drop a nuclear bomb or whatever, if like all this lore stuff is correct and they drop a nuclear bomb, does that mean we're going to get radiation in Tarkov? Like what so Nikita said, which was like the permanent killer of your account, radiation in Tarkov. Are we going to get that? Are we going to get, are we going to get a new, like, we're getting 3 new scav bosses. My guess is another 4th one with the lighthouse. Are we going to get a 5th one now? Is there going to be cultists on every map for finally, where it's not just woods, shoreline, and factory and customs? Like, are we going to get them on interchange? Are we going to get them on lighthouse? I mean, I'm pretty sure the lighthouse itself, like that, island sort of thing, is going to be cultist headquarters, but are we going to get them all around the place? Are we going to get cultists on labs? I would be down for like the sewer area to have cultists or something like cultists there just hanging out. I think that would be cool.
Man, what if they did a labs night raid, or like the power went out, or it was like partially out in certain locations, and it was just like pitch black, dude.
That would be absolutely
cultists took over.
That would honestly be so scary.
What I would love to see is, I would love them to just remove all the lights in labs. And then players have to turn back on the lights.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So it gives you an incentive to bring in either a flashlight to, hey, you're now spotted, sadly through walls because flashlights are broken, but you're now able to be spotted more easily with the flashlight, but you don't have to bring in the heavy extra gear like NVGs, or you bring in NVGs, and then halfway through the raid, the NVGs are no longer or in places. Like, I feel like it should be like you turn on, the medical block with like green card and black card and blue card, or you turn on the front desk area with red and violet and all those lights, where you now can't use your NVGs in those areas because now the lights are on. I feel like that would be an awesome addition to labs. Too bad I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe, but I feel like that would be an awesome addition to labs. While we're on that topipic,
I think it'd be neat. I really like the environmental. What do you call it? But things like you're changing stuff, or you're like changing things
interacting
about the map,
with the environment.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Reserve was one where they really started doing that with the button and the switch and that kind of thing, which is awesome. And they've got the power interchange, and I think those things are really cool. And Customs, I guess, has the power switch and stuff. But yeah, that type of map interaction, I think, is really interesting. I don't know. It makes maps more interesting for sure. And it makes the gameplay more interesting for sure. Because as you're saying, then you have more variables to have to work with. You're saying, well, is someone going to turn the power on or not? Like, do I take NVGs or not? Or is my plan to turn the lights on? Is my plan to shoot the lights out? Like, if you go factory night, it's, do you want to shoot the lights out so your NVGs work better? Or do you want to keep them on so that people who have got NVGs on struggle more, and you're just going to go with a flashlight? There's more to think about. So I definitely think that'd be sick.
One idea that came in my head is, like on Shoreline in the resort, there's like on second floor of West, there's these floodlights that are set up, and they are you can't shoot them out. They're just constantly on at nighttime. It'd be super cool if like you could turn them on and off through like the battery. Like maybe it's just like press F to interact, something super basic. But it's just like, you hear someone come in, they're in the hallway, and then you just like bang, flash banging with the floodlights. Like plays the floodlight.mp3 sound effect. Like there's like, I can't see.
Or I mean, like tie it in with the quest from like Peacekeeper, where you have to go find the generators. The generators can turn on and off all the lights for all the 2 stories, because obviously the power grid's not working anymore. They apparently an EMP went off, and no one's using anything with the power grid. Maybe the power station down the river or whatever is still working and is powering it, but like it'd be way more fun if like we have 3 generators powering each of the 3 buildings on Shoreline Resort. Turn them on if you want, turn them off if you want, have fun. Dynamic, interactable maps would be...
It would be awesome. It'd be so good. It'd be so good. I really like the idea of that.
I wish they extended the idea of interchange to every other map, of being able to just being able to turn on and off lights changes the entire NVG gameplay. Because currently you can just run around with NVGs and be perfectly fine. And you can be almost perfectly fine if you run around NVGs in the daylight currently.
Even the sound, like light is one aspect we're talking about, even like the sound aspect. Like you mentioned the generators. There's a generator in Idea towards the back. It's just always running and it's loud and you can't hear anything. What if you could like fill them up with gas? Like you go to a car, you grab your silicone tube, you stick it in there, you siphon by sucking out the gas and spitting it into the gas tank, and you take the gas tank back to the generator and you fill it up, and then when someone's walking by you cut it on. Maybe it's like a remote thing you press, I don't know, and it's like, oh my god, there's a loud noise. What is that?
In my opinion though, those would need we would have to have longer raids and people be in raids longer for stuff like that to actually be useful. Because currently, run around, grab shit, get out as fast as you can. There's no reason of staying in raid.
Yeah. Anyway,
you need it to be much more like open world, right? And then when things
world, or how like the cycle does it, I feel like would even be better.
Yeah.
I don't think I feel like open world where you could just legitimately walk to the other map, you don't have to go through any loading screen or anything, will never happen. I don't think that will happen in Tarkov.
I don't either, personally. Yeah. I think open world, we've said before, but I think open world is misleading. I think it's connected maps with restrictions.
There you go.
We have no restrictions right now, but I think it'll just be a more restricted version of what we have, and with some traders and stash and the hideout and between different maps, depending on certain restrictions or requirements or whatever, I think is the reality.
Right.
But we'll see. I don't know. But interesting, you mentioned earlier about the map where you edited it, because given we're talking about open world, it's a favorite topic of mine as well, the interconnectivity of the maps. I do love it. And you mentioned that the map is not at all representative of the real map, which I agree with, because the map that they use in game is the old Contract Wars map, and not the one that they've ended up kind of developing through joining the maps together, which is quite fascinating, because there's a very old map which is the Contract Wars map, which is sort of I guess it's almost like concept art for the Tarkov map, but that just so happens to be the map behind the map selection screen in game.
I want to clarify.
It doesn't add up.
I want to clarify very quickly. The map that we're talking about, the 2 maps that we're talking about, are the in-game like actual geometry, which is and the map screen that you select, customs, factory, interchange, whatever. Those 2 are completely different. They do not line up at all. I mean, go to that map and try to find the lighthouse, like the little island off the coast of the lighthouse. You won't find it. And it does not map up. But how they have built all the maps besides interchange and labs, interchange, labs, and factory, those 3 will not connect together. But shoreline, customs, woods, lighthouse, reserve, all of those connect correctly. So you can take the map geometry or whatever, which I've done in the past, and connect them together, and you will get a huge, it's not a complete chunk of the map because they don't have streets yet. That's not connected, and they don't have interchange connected. But you can connect all these other maps, and they all connect correctly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and it's a huge map. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
no,
big.
they don't connect up. Or not connect up, but they don't match. The map in the loading screen does not match the actual map in game, or like the geometry or terrain in game.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's very much more that map in particular. I mean, I don't really have it to hand, but that map is much, as I say, is much more like an artist's impression or something. You know, it's like a concept art piece or something. It's the way it looks because it's quite. I don't know. It's like a sort of top-down, not like drone footage, but sort of. Yeah, it's like an art piece. This is
like
the thing.
it
It's not really
loosely
like.
follows.
Yeah, it's not like a descriptive map of Tarkov in and of
Mhm.
itself. I mean, people think that interchange is the one that's like the most loosely connected because it doesn't. There's no direct link from one map to the other, as you say, but you know the direction broadly that it's in. You can from customs you can see a warehouse, which maybe is the same warehouse from the other side, but you
Well,
don't really know. It's hard to
here,
know because it does say idea on it, but that's actually a lot of people think that it's like, oh, there's interchange there, it's idea. But if you look at the orientation of interchange, it should actually be Ollie first, and then ideas at the top. So it's like another idea like off the main park, like a warehouse or something, which you might be able to see back from interchange. If you look, there's actually some more warehouses that way. So whether it's that one exactly, it's like not entirely certain. So it doesn't. Yeah, it's not perfect.
right? Like, how do I put this? If you look at the idea off customs, it, like you said, does not match up. Whatever. I've tried connecting the interchange map to the side of customs. It does not work. In my personal opinion, it's like an offshoot store of idea that is next to customs. It's not like the main big mall.
Mhm.
I feel like the main big mall is going to connect with the like streets of Tarkov before
Yeah.
it connects with the rest of the world.
Yeah, I agree because you can see streets quite well from interchange. So if you look out at the top, you can actually see it on the horizon. And interchange is actually the closest map to streets.
Right.
So you can see streets the best, kind of.
That
From
we know
there.
of. Technically, Labs
We
is the
know of.
closest map. You know, it's apparently underneath streets, but you know.
Exactly. But you can't see above ground at all from anywhere in it. The best you get is into, the underground parking lot or something. And that's that. So it doesn't glean any information about where it might be or any of that stuff. I mean, factory is still technically supposed to connect to it. So whether that's via an underground tunnel or something, I don't know, because it's quite far away because factory's basically inside customs.
Well, factory, from what they've said, factory is between customs and woods. And customs and woods do connect up. That is something that does happen. But the problem is that none of the buildings currently between customs and woods match up with factory. Not a single one.
There is one. If you look at the in-game map, there is one building that has the right floor plan, but it no longer makes sense with the expansion. It used to work with the old factory. But I feel like maybe they're going a bit off piece. That was maybe not part of the plan. But
I have a feeling they'll fit it in somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think eventually, well, I don't know whether factory is just going to get consumed by customs eventually or not. I don't know. We were talking about this with my chat the other day, and some people were saying, "Oh, I'll be a bit sad if factory just gets eaten by customs, and then you can't go to just factory on its own." But then I guess that's what arena's for. So I suppose it depends on how that ends up working out.
I mean, it would be an interesting take, but I feel like factory is known to be like, "Hey, this is a quick map. Go waste your gear here." Sort of map. You get what is it now? You get like 20, 15 minutes now out of the entire map.
Really
short. I think it's 20. Yeah.
So like you could have a 10-minute fight and that's half the raid, the entire raid gone. Yeah. Which I feel is fine with factory, but I'm like it's the map known for if you want to just have PvP instantly currently. That is factory. If arena comes out, that might take over. It all depends. But then you also don't get any of the benefits of, playing the actual main game. You're not supporting your own account. Like you can go into factory, get out with, 3 gear sets full of like max gear and still have that. While in arena, apparently you won't be able to do that, but you'll get something else out of it, which is like, is that going to be worth the trade-off? And then if it is, I I think Factory isn't built exactly for like a larger open map. Personally, that's my personal opinion. But I mean, I know some people who want to see all the maps be larger than customs. So
yeah, I don't know. That's a difficult one because I do really like Factory for what it is. I actually play quite a bit of Factory just because it's fast and quick, and you know you're going to get into certain fights and you're going to get some action, and it's great for doing warm ups or certain quests and that kind of thing. But when they were doing the expansion, I was a little bit disappointed that there wasn't at least like some outside area because I was hoping that maybe it would play out a little bit more like, not exactly like it is in the Raid series, but a little bit more like that, where you've got the outside section and you like can move in and out of the buildings. You could kind of flank using an outside area. It wouldn't have to be very big, just sort of like the yard in customs that blockades it off. It could be just be barbed wired off even around most of the outside, but just to allow you to move inside and outside. So you add it a little bit of an extra element, but I'm fine with the way it is for the moment. But yeah, I really want to see about Arena first because I think we'd really miss it if Factory did disappear from its current state, just because it's not really very Tarkov as a map, but you know, it's good to give that release somewhere, right? Otherwise, it would just be a shame to like lose that completely, I think.
Right. It is one of, if not the most unique map currently in Tarkov because of how small it is.
Yeah.
You do not have to wait around besides the loading screen, 5-minute loading screen, haha. You do not have to wait around for you to find people. You will find someone in Factory, whether it's the DB scav going ham or it's something else. You will find someone or something in Factory.
Exactly. And it's super high performing too. The map, has amazing FPS because there's nothing on there except for a couple of scavs and a small environment. Great. It's like if you go in the hideout, because the hideout is like a map technically. Well, the hideout makes my computer sort of go super critical over in the corner because it's no longer CPU locked anymore. My GPU just goes like flatlines with like 6 billion FPS. So unless I like lock it off or something, I could hear my whole machine like nearly taking off in the corner of a room. Like it's actually insane. So you get some of that effect on Factory as well, where you end up getting really high frames just because the map's so straightforward. So it feels nice to play in that sense too. You're not like slugging through Lighthouse trying to ADS and Tarkov.ppt playing over the front while you're trying to use a voodoo at long range. So there is that as well. It's good. I have a real soft spot for Factory. I think it's really fun. I think it's great. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll enjoy Arena more than I think. I'm looking forward to it, but
I hope that Arena is literally one of the best parts of Tarkov, as it will satisfy many players, PvP tendencies.
Exactly.
And they'll just have more fun in the base game as well because of that. They won't be like, in my opinion, they won't be, extremely pissed off that I can't PvP, because if they want to PvP, they can just go over there for a little bit, have some fun, and then come back. Like, I feel like that would be probably the best.
I mean, it'll be different. It'll be very different because it's going to be small maps and stuff. But that's what most people want. When they say PvP, they normally mean dorms, resort, labs, factory. They don't mean long range sniping or whatever. Usually, which I guess is reserved for, well, not even long range, but just like regular combat. Outside of shoreline, that kind of thing that players like myself enjoy. But it won't be like that. But that's fine because you can get that in the normal game.
In my opinion, I wouldn't say that long range is regular combat, as most. I have not. Okay, I want your opinion on this because I've been asking a couple people. I want you just to think real quick. When do you engage a target in Tarkov? Like, how far do you engage a target normally in Tarkov?
Usually, somebody pops out and it's about 20 meters.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Right. 20, 25.
The overwhelming amount of fights.
Right, but the overwhelming. But when do you spot them? Besides, people in bushes, people in like buildings, outside of buildings, when do you spot them, and then when do you engage? Because so far from what I've like seen and what I've asked other people, it's been like I maybe shoot 1 or 2 shots at 50 meters to get their attention to like initiate PvP, but then we always close in the gap to like 10, 15 meters or 25 meters. We never you never take in that long range engagement over 50 meters normally. for like an actual fight to try to kill someone. It's almost, in my opinion, I've always seen people just run around with and try to close the gap as close as they can.
I know what you mean. I think it depends on your kit. So I definitely have been known to take a few shots and then like run away to try to keep at 50 meters, depending on what I'm using. If you're using like BPO 215 Bolty, or even when I had a spree recently with the OPSKS, that was pretty fun. But I was trying to keep people at bay there as well, and do sort of flanks to try and keep people at the same distance. And most of the fights that I had there, I would say, I mean, some of them were quite close, but I would say the majority of those were probably at 50 meters. I would say, and I was taking shots of people and then repositioning, and then taking more shots, repositioning, taking more shots, but trying to keep away and keep at distance. It really depends what weapon I have. I think it's because most people go for, as you might imagine, meta-y type guns that actually work. And I use a random mix of stuff, and I'm trying things out maybe more so than the average player because I'm making content for it too. So use some more unorthodox weapons. But yeah, if you have a gun with the ability to outshoot somebody at close range, it absolutely makes sense to start trying to close the gap to try to bring the advantages of your loadout into play. So yeah, I can see why most players do probably do that, and I do that too if I'm outranged, or I'm saying, well, the guy might have a semi-auto 7.62 weapon, and I've got I don't know what. I'm trying to think of it. What would be a good example? Like an ACP Vector maybe, or like a UMP. I don't know. That's probably a good example. Can you say, well, I really do.
UMP is very good.
Yeah, if we're within 20 meters, then I have a good chance of winning. Whereas if we're fighting at 50 meters, it's very, very hard for me to win that engagement. So let's push. Right. So I think for me, it really depends.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I don't think this is a bad thing. I just think that this is something that most people like just gloss over. It's like the engagement distance normally is glossed over than like just bullets PvP, or like out of most of the PvP mechanics, engagement distance is not normally considered. It's get close to your target so you can hit more shots, is from what I've gathered. And there's outliers like myself who literally goes away from people to try to hit a 100-meter shot with a shotgun, something that should not work, should not happen. But like, that's how you have to play that. I could go, I could technically go close range with a shotgun, but if you're like specifically trying to go out of your way to get a long range shot, that's like the only time that I can really reason to take a farther engagement distance than like 50 meters.
Yeah, unless you're using a specifically long range kit. And that's the thing, most people don't really use long range kits because most people don't use bolties because there's not really any practical reason in Tarkov to do so unless you're on Lighthouse, and unless you really want to, or you'd completed a specific quest for it. Like the semi-auto DMRs just are overwhelmingly better, yeah. In so many ways, partly because of that engagement distance too. It's an interesting one. I do remember popping back onto PUBG once upon a time for like a few games, and we basically just looted for 20 minutes and then just got stomped on by the remaining sweaties who still played that game, and it was miserable. But it reminded me just of how different that is to EFT, because it's actually a lot more long range. You basically need a 4x in that game, otherwise you can't play. And it's because the maps are just barren open wastelands. There's like a bush here, and then there's a bush there, and then there's a tree here, and then there's a building there. Whereas in Tarkov, it's just like pile of rubbish, tree. Here's a wall, old train station, a wall around the map, barbed wire. You're just like, there's so much stuff. Like even on woods, right? You're just like, you literally cannot see the forest for the trees. It's just there's so much foliage. You end up, woods is like woods is 50% spotting somebody, stalking them, and then taking pot shots at them, and 50% two men with a bolt action bumping into each other at 5 meters. That seems to be the experience. So it's just, there's so much terrain that it actually makes the shooting experience quite difficult in EFT, because the maps are kind of more realistic and they're not just barren and sparse, which is a testament to their map design, but it also has an impact on the way people play.
Exactly, yeah. There's always the map, the geometry itself. It always has an influence. I mean, you're not going to run a bolt. You normally shouldn't run a bolty in factory. You're at a disadvantage 100% of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Ah, man. So I'm not sure. Like, I'm just thinking now where to start. What question? What should I ask you about your stuff first and foremost. Actually, I think I'll ask you the question that I asked Church. So do you use exclusively Blender, or do you like what kind of range of applications do you use? I guess is a more broad question for doing the things that you do.
So this is now, I'm going to very easily say this is a transition into my 3D work because I do 3D renders for streamers and just for fun. Like I'm working on an animation currently for Tarkov for fun. For programs, for the majority of my stuff, I use Blender. It's free, it's open source. I'm able to program what I need to for it, and just have some fun. It's gotten way better over the years, since 2013 when I started using it. It has gotten way better. But I'm also now using Maya, which is industry standard currently for animation, as I'm doing more animation things. And I use, Photoshop, DaVinci Resolve for Post FX, a bunch of other, like, it's not for 3D, it's not just a 3D program that you have to use. It is everything that goes with it. You're working with images, so have an image editing program. You're working with sounds, so be able to edit sounds in like Audacity for like recording your voice or random sounds that you want to use. But yeah, majority of the time I work in Blender as, that is my 3D program of choice. That's what I've learned, although I'm splitting off to something like, was it Maya? And I'm also learning a little bit of Unreal here and there just because I'm interested in it, but it's mostly Blender, yeah.
How long has Blender been around? Because I remember hearing about it with like the modding community and some of the games I used to play. Do you know how long that program's been around? Because
I think it's 1999.
Okay.
I'm gonna very quickly check for you.
Because dude, I'm thinking back like 2010, 29, I want to say. I remember hearing about it and was like kind of interested in it because I saw people making these, makeshift polygons that resembled a gun. Oh yeah, that's an M1 Grand.
So I said it's a little bit younger than what I said. It was released on October 13th, 2002. So it is an old program.
Okay.
It is an old program. I remember hearing something about it was originally was it funded by investors, and then it didn't go so well, so they bought back the license to it, and now it's free and open source. So,
that's cool. So it's interesting to me having you on because I feel like you got a very unique perspective, and Giga being the Tarkov content creator he is, YouTube focused, streaming, all the stuff, and we've seen this new trend of 3D thumbnails and using the game. I mean, I think of anytime this topic comes up, I always think of Rust because that's where I first really saw this style being popularized. I mean, I don't know who started it over in that genre, but once it really caught on, of like people like Blueprint, Frost, some of like the really big creators. Because prior to that, I think it was a lot of like hand drawn, commissioned from like artists. They would like draw these scenes, and then someone somewhere did a 3D thumbnail, and now it's like it's the thing to do. If you're gonna do a Rust video, you gotta have a 3D thumbnail, or else no one's gonna watch it. And now it's like Tarkov came in the mix. I want to say like Jesse might have been one of the earliest ones to implement it, if I'm not mistaken. Jesse Kazam, to commission someone to do that work. And whereas now, I feel like I'm seeing, tons of people, Chocolate Eggnog's doing them. I follow so many of them, I can't even think of the names, but just seeing so many 3D artists come out. People from Rust, that typically do a lot of work for Rust, are now looking for clients in the Tarkov community. So did you? Right. Yeah, go ahead.
I can go ahead and, if you're fine with this, I can go ahead and shout out most of the ones that I know who are currently doing 3D stuff. There's Chocolate Eggnog, like you said. There is Augustus Visuals, which we call Soup. There is Tyrannos. is doing mostly Rust. Penguin mostly spearheaded all the 3D stuff in Tarkov's category. And he's working with Trey currently, but I know he's open. There's Junker, obviously. Junker's been around doing 3D stuff, and FairTX.
Yeah.
There's Hortus, which is another somewhat newer comer to the 3D space, as well as Sleepy Ghost and some personal friends of mine, Speed Priest and Bearer Buko, I believe, or we call him Bera. But yeah, all those people currently that I can like name off the top of my head are doing
a lot of people.
Tarkov. There's a lot. We have a small Discord where we all just hang out and talk. So yeah, we talk, share a bunch of stuff, and have a bunch of fun in there. It's great.
So, yeah, that's really interesting. Cool. Yeah, because we did as the church says, we saw that suddenly people appeared doing all these kind of things. I almost feel that it's like you said before, but almost on a sped up scale. Because if it's happened somewhere else, then it happens in another gaming community, but it's like way quicker because people already kind of know like what to do. And I think the first like artist commission type of work that I saw was on Swamp Fox's channel. He was doing and I think he still does them, right? So he has an artist he works with to make his thumbnails, and he started doing those first, and then we started seeing the 3D stuff come afterwards. But it is fascinating because it's an interesting one that I guess like within my niche of people who I do various things clearly, but weapons build is one of them. And within the grouping of people that do weapons build videos, there's always that thing of, well, how do you get the acid onto the thumbnail? And basically everybody who is just playing the game and is a regular content creator has to do it some way within the game. And usually people use the weapons preset builder because you get the highest resolution picture, but sometimes it doesn't always fit properly and you can't zoom out enough, and there's not enough, you don't get enough control with the camera to get exactly the right shot you want, and you can't set up the lighting and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting seeing these various people put this stuff together, but I'm sure it takes a very, very long time. It's one of those things where it's like, in an ideal world, I'd love to know exactly like how to do that kind of stuff, like how to make that kind of thing. But I know that like the barrier to entry on time is probably extreme, and so it's probably not even worth looking into. But I mean, like, yeah, just like how hard actually is it?
So it used to be extremely hard. When I started back in 2019, there was no one else doing it. There was no documentation on it. There was no easy way to see how other people are doing it because no one's done it before. I think, was it back in 2019, I was just doing small renders and animations for fun for some streamers who I watched, which was Slush Puppy, Red Ops, and Fox E. Those three. And at the time, it took ages. I mean, the first render I did, just the scene building itself took, I don't know, like a month. But now but now since I know what the hell I'm doing, that's the biggest thing. Now since I know what the hell I'm doing, you can do it within somewhere around like a day, 2 days, depending on what you want to do. Like just importing and building a character.
Animation and all, or just having like a
just importing it in.
Okay.
Animation's completely different. It has nothing to do it technically has nothing to do with Tarkov. Because that's just a whole separate, you can animate anything from Rust to Tarkov to, Apex Legends to CSGO. But specifically getting the models and other stuff imported into Tarkov was extremely hard. Until we started developing little ways to get it in or to, actually build it up and build it correctly and do all this stuff. Mostly spearheaded by Speed Priest, which I would very much like to thank because dude's awesome. But yeah, no, now it can take a little bit around a day, depending on what you want to do, depending on what you need. And if you need to do it manually and you haven't done it before, because if you've done it before, you just grab the old files and, it's done in a couple seconds because you've already finished it. So, yeah.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, it's one of those things, I guess. Like, and that's coming from someone who's done it for a long time and has also used Blender for years and years and years. I think there's all of that learning curve that is on the required pain and effort of trial and error. You mentioned about coding as well. Like, is there a lot of programming involved in? And I actually don't really, to be honest, I don't even know how Blender works. Really, I've never seen the program. So
depending on what you do, there's a lot of programming involved. If you're just doing like using assets, you don't really have to learn any programming. I mean, to be honest, I didn't have to learn any programming until like a year ago when I started to pick it back up again. Just because like you're able to do it without programming if you want to spend the time to do it without programming, but programming just makes it faster. And normally, so here's the thing: if you want to learn this stuff, just DM one of the people in the community. We are fine with trying to help as long as you show that you want to like do it. As long as you show that you've like made an attempt to try to get this stuff done or try to get this in. Just DM someone in the community and we will respond. Or it may take a day or two, but you'll most likely get a response back. So yeah, cool. on that point,
I guess you're like, it's the same with any sort of small tight knit community, I suppose, because people are happy to help each other out and things. That's nice. Just nice to know, at least. Good to know.
But you need to, like, the biggest thing that everyone that I've talked to is like, you need to show that you're willing to put in at least some sort of effort, because we're not just going to give you everything, right off the bat, because that's just, if you're not doing any effort and we're just giving stuff away, that's sort of like, we've spent hours and hours and hours working on this stuff. I've spent over almost 3 years now working on Tarkov stuff, trying to get this stuff done. It's taken a long time to get to the point, and we have no problem like sharing that, but you need to show that you're,
I think that's fair enough, right? I mean, if you guys wanted to take it to its extreme, right, you'd be like, well, look, it's like part of what you guys are doing to, make money and stuff. So it's sort of like,
right.
If you wanted to take it that way, you could be like, sorry, no, because it's part of what some of us are doing for a living. If you really wanted to.
And I mean, hell, you can quote unquote corner the market by like you are able to do it. No one else is able to do it currently, or not to the standard that you're able to do it. That you can technically corner the market. Like, it's happened in the past, and I wouldn't be too surprised. But that's not, at least personally, me. That's not what I care for. I care for having people into the community, like this little niche, and just having fun with it. Learning new stuff and learning how to get stuff done is like probably the most fun that you could have in this. Oh, that was a door. Sorry about that. Door just closed.
You're good.
But yeah, like the biggest thing is that like we want. I would love to help people like get in, but you need to show that like you're willing to do it, because otherwise it's just a waste of my time. I've wasted, if I waste 10 hours trying to help you, that's 10 hours I'm not getting back, and I do it for free. So like,
yeah, absolutely, for sure. That totally makes sense. And it's also one of those things too, if you haven't actually tried, like, you don't even really know the right questions to ask as well if you haven't tried yourself. Because if you try to do something, it's the same with everything, right? You like try to get so far and then you go, okay, well, how do I do this bit? I'm stuck on this. And then it frames the question so much better if you then have already tried, got to a point, got stuck, tried to figure it out and gone, well, I've tried this and this, but none of these things seem to really work. Then that's the point at which you should reach out on this stuff usually.
And if you don't know where to start, it's perfectly fine to ask if you don't know where to start, but we'll give you like, hey, look at this. And you have to go out and take a look. We're not going to explain it to you fully at that current time because we have other stuff that we need to get done. But we'll point it out and be like, hey, take a look at this. This will point you in the right direction. Let me know if you get stuck afterwards and if you like have tried something and it's just not working.
Yeah, exactly. No, that totally makes sense to me. I can 100% understand that for sure. In terms of the actual assets, like one thing that I find really fascinating is that looking at some of the renders, I mean, clearly the assets in Tarkov are done in an extremely detailed way. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do the things that you guys do. I find that quite fascinating that you actually have like the detail, the sufficient detail to produce something that looks that good close up. I suppose the implication is, well, either that the Tarkov assets are highly detailed, or you guys are doing other things as well to anti-alias smooth, fix stuff, whatever. Like,
it's not just
building
the
on.
Tarkov assets. I'll let you know that it's not just the Tarkov assets. There's a wide variety of things that you could do to remaking the entire model or just remaking the texture itself.
Yeah, so you could
there's a wider range.
You could AI upscale the textures. I imagine you could do some type of oh man, I can't think of the terms, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is like some type of lighting, like the shininess of the texture. What's that called? Like
it's called roughness in Blender. It's called many different things in many different programs. It depends on what but it's either called a roughness or gloss map. Is normally, and it's like a black or white texture that tells it like this is shiny and this isn't.
Oh, so it's almost like a depth map in a way, like the same type of logic, I guess.
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that it's the same type of depth. A normal map, which is like these interesting looking, blue, green, red textures that normally look purple.
Yes.
That's most likely closer to a depth map than the roughness.
Because I was thinking like a luminance scale, like black and white depth map where I think it's the whiter parts is like in focus and the blacker parts are out of focus. Maybe it's the inverse, but
right. I mean, I guess somewhat like that. But roughness is mostly like how shiny it is. So I guess you could see it like that.
In a way,
yeah, I could see it like that. I could see it like that.
Interesting. Yeah, because I've been learning about this stuff through other like within DaVinci Resolve and how it pertains to like 2D environments, occasionally 3D, but I'm sticking to the 2D stuff. So this stuff's really interests me. And like you mentioned Speed Priest. I think I'm saying his name right.
Speed Priest is correct.
And it's like, man, dude, some of the like special effects, like the lighting, that's just like I don't even know. Like, is that post processing on the 2D image and like Photoshop? Is that like the 3D explosion and all? Like, I mean, I can't even imagine how long it takes to render some of this stuff and how much processing
You'd actually be
power.
surprised.
Really?
It depends. So animations obviously take longer because you have to render more than one frame.
Yeah.
So like, was it the most recent one that I did? I believe. Let me take a look. But the most recent one I did for like Trey, Smitty, and Toothy, for the like evasion tournament just for fun that I did. That I believe took a minute or two to render. So like you press F12, it starts rendering, and that's with using in Blender there's two different ways of rendering. There's like how Tarkov renders, somewhat like how Tarkov renders, and then there's ray tracing. So that's using the ray tracing method, and the ray tracing method took around 5 minutes. If I reworked it to like the other method, sort of the real time, it's real time practically. It takes 5 seconds to render. And that's the majority of the animations that I do is in Eevee because I do not want to wait, 1 to 5 minutes a frame.
Yeah.
That sort of just seems like a pain to do,
Yeah.
I've done a 50-hour render before, so like I don't want to do another one.
I was just going to say, I can only imagine how long some of the parts or the segments of Junker's latest one took to render parts of his like the Wipe 4 video. We were talking about this last time, I think, but it's just like such an insane video. Like he's so talented. He's so talented.
The amount of time that man has put into that video, he deserves every single and more credit and praise that video has gotten, because he spent a lot of time working on that, and it looks amazing. I love the video. I got to see it a little bit earlier before everyone else, but
okay. Yeah, no, it's insane. It's like it's actually insane. It's like it's like the pinnacle of the Tarkov kind of creation scene, in my opinion. Anyway,
right. This him and Fair TX.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying it's him and Fair TX up there, in my opinion, doing this stuff.
And this brings me to a topic that really just intrigues me so much because, you have these people like FairTX, Junker, they do like these insane projects. I mean, they're just like, and it's like passion projects for them. I like Junker. It almost like bugs me in a way, but it it's like he plays copywritten music in the videos.
He doesn't get a cent from his videos.
And it's like, dude, get your money, King, get your check.
And he's fine with it.
He's fine with it.
It is his passion to do it, and it's awesome. I wish that he would get money for it. I think everyone in the community wishes.
Does he have a Patreon?
Yeah, he has a Patreon. Go follow
he needs to plug the Patreon more.
He does.
Yeah.
I feel. I'm gonna plug for him.
Get him a call, Evan, and get onto him. Okay. Tell him Church from ScavTalk says he needs to get on it. Get that money.
I'll go ahead and do that. But yeah, no. Junker has a Patreon. Go over to his Patreon, say hi, and go give him money.
Yeah, I have to check it
that's
out.
like it's like the most depressing thing. I remember Z-Chum was started on his Rust videos, and then he did his first one that got like 1 million views or something, and it got copyright struck for like it was like 5 seconds of some piece of music or whatever. So it's just like, well, that's gone. It's so extreme, dude. And he's just like, well, I wanted to use the music I wanted to use in the video. Like, what can I say?
Yeah. I want to do what I want to do, and reap the rewards and the consequences as well. Although Z-Chum also has a second channel, I'm pretty sure he has a secondary channel that's also doing that, and he has I don't know if he has a Patreon or not. I'm pretty sure he does.
Yeah,
I don't know. His videos are. I always really enjoyed like the Tarkov, like what are they called? I can't remember what they're called now, but they're like the old, like the 80s style ones he was doing, the supercut type ones.
Yeah.
Because the Rust videos are great, right? The Rust videos are really, really good, and they're like super popular. But like, I also really enjoy his Tarkov like supercut things, like the sort of semi-meme videos too, because it's again an amazing thing, like super comedic timing, like a lot of attention to detail, and like putting stuff together. I don't think there was any. He just does like insane edits. I'm not sure if he actually does any like Blender work or anything.
I'm pretty sure, and I do. So Junker used to do this as well, and I'm pretty sure he used it in his most recent video as well. But they used SFM. I do not understand how people can use that.
That's Source Filmmaker. Yeah.
Released and made by Valve for TF2, CS:GO, and Half-Life 2.
Okay.
And I do not understand how people use that program. It is in my opinion, I respect everyone who uses it. The program itself is cursed.
Yeah. Valve's, I remember messing around with some of like Dota 2 dev kit stuff, like their map maker and stuff, and it is like they have a very unique approach to their tools. And, I mean, Hammer for like Source, it's all kind of archaic in a way, but I wanted to comment on how it's really interesting that we have all these great creators doing these really cool things with technology and software, and it's almost like its own little circle or like niche of like free advertisement for the game, from these creators. I mean, I see it in Rust, and I really like. I'm huffing the copium tank on this one. I guess it's more of a hopium tank, but I really want some type of in-game, cinematic studio, or like what's the one that like Halo had? What is that called? Forge?
I know Rust, or hey, I'm pretty sure that's for map making though. I don't think that's for like cinematics.
Right. Yeah.
I know that Rust has extensive content creators focused like recording and demo reel. It now has an incomplete demo reel, so you can record the actions and replay back the actions and move the camera. It's like a whole 3D program within itself, specifically for Rust. And I wish, and I know everyone wishes, at least in this community, wishes we had something like that.
Yeah, and even just for making content, right? Because it's done so well for Rust.
Right. Let me rephrase this. I wish that it was officially supported. I wish that
Yeah.
was officially supported because you can get something called SP Tarkov or single player Tarkov, and there's a 3D free cam in there, and it's what a lot of people use for those, you know, overhead shots, and a little bit jank, a little bit buggy, as everything in Tarkov. Community made, and it is, man, I just wish something like that was just put into Tarkov officially, because I legitimately think that it would probably be the best thing they could add for the game as a PR standpoint, as more people would make cool and interesting videos rather than the same sort of, look at this meta gun, look at this, you know, I killed a 5-man, you know. Everyone does it. I did it in the past as well, you know. Everyone does it.
And me and Checha talked about this before, right? And it's just like, where are the 4 million view videos about EFT? Right, they don't exist because partly it's the storytelling, but also you can't make the videos the same way. It's so hard, right? And to do something like that, you have to be Yoko or someone like that, and to manually put this stuff together over, you know, laboriously over like hundreds of hours. Like, it's insane the amount of effort that people go into to make some of these things. It's crazy. So if you just had some ability to, that's the thing, it wouldn't even need to interact necessarily with the game that well functionally. It's just for getting some way of like free camming certain aspects of the player or certain fights, or you could even have like, as you say, the game's recorded but from like only your perspective, so you can't see anything more than what you saw in that game, but that would still help.
Not even that, they could just make a separate branch, like the ETS servers. They could just make a separate branch and just do it. You can only do it on that, and that's the only thing that you can do. And it could be, and although it would suck, like you couldn't go multiplayer online and hang out with your friends and do recordings with your friend. Even if it was just a single player, it would change the game so much for Escape from Tarkov YouTubes that I feel like that it would draw more attention to the game once again. I mean, was it back in the day, Frost, the Rust YouTuber, asked when they were going to get a you know, free cam, you know, recording system for people who want to make cinematics, and you know, they said way from what I don't know if this was tweeted out or if it was said on his streams, but they said like that is something that's going to be coming after 1.0, and 1.0's what, a year off, 5 years off, let's be honest, but a year off. You know, at least minimum 1.0 is coming out with Streets. Streets said they would be at the end of the year, in autumn again, and we'll see if that actually holds true. And if it does, I mean, how much longer till we get a free cam after that? And it's just a free cam, or is it going to be a full suite of cinematic recording tools like Rust has, or is it going to be, I mean, if the community is able to implement it, what, 2 years ago now? I'm pretty sure BSG can implement it as well. It just, do they want to spend the resources doing that, or do they want to spend the resources doing other stuff? And that's the hardest part of, you know, this sort of type of business that they've decided to run.
Yeah, it's a hard decision, right? Because you say, well, incrementally, how much will this add to the game? Making these things that aren't necessarily relevant to the game, but they're relevant to the content creation scene, which is a large part of how the game gets its advertising in the first place. It's a tricky one. Yeah, but I mean, I think they need to fix fundamentally within themselves how they feel about this stuff, because the community's in a really weird spot with it, right? Like, people are always dancing around the edges of just like, you know, how to do this or how to do that, or talking about SP Tarkov or whether you're not allowed to use it or not. And then you have like BSG retweeting people like Yunker's videos, and people using free cam in various cinematics that get, you know, retweeted or shown or liked or whatever, or pushed out by them. And it's like, well, yeah, it's like, do they like it? Do they not like it? Well, they clearly like the final product, but the route to it is definitely a gray area. And so
they've always been in the state of like, you know, we're not adding modding tools to our game. We're locking the game down, whatever. And I don't think that's going to change, sadly.
Yeah.
Even after 1.0, even after, if let's say 1.0 is a flop and there's literally no players in the game, I feel like they still won't open up the gates to modding or just doing cool stuff with the game besides, hey, you're able to play it. I personally don't think that cinematic tools will come within the next 3 years. I don't think they're going to come at all, personally.
I don't think they'll come at all either.
Unless Nikita has made time in his timeline to, add a free cam that they already have within their, developmental studio to be able to have that in game. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. And I think it's I'm trying to think of the right word, but I think it's principles is kind of the wrong word. It's sort of like there's a sort of fundamental dislike of that whole thing, and I think that they need to have like a mindset shift before that even becomes a possibility. And I don't think we're even there. So it's like I don't think there's not even any intentionality in trying to add that kind of thing, because at the moment they really don't like it at all. From a
They're on the edge
level,
depending on what you do. I'm sure that they don't like extracting game files or people extracting game files from their game, but I'm sure they're fine. I mean, they've been fine and hopefully will stay fine with people posting art about it, posting cool stuff that they've done with it,
Exactly.
Y'all can hope.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think of the classic Source 2 scientists, and being like, that's maybe I'm recalling it wrong. I don't know, but it's almost like these things get extracted and then put into other engines and whatnot, and it becomes like a staple. Like I'm thinking of Junker. He'll have in Source 2 filmmaker, I assume he has a USEC model that's doing the Source 2 animations, copy pasted over, but are just in the stance holding the crowbar, and it's as a gamer words, I recognize that. That's from Half-Life. That's Half-Life.
That's from Gmod.
Yes, exactly. It's
you cannot go anywhere within any community that has a space like what me and my friends are doing in the 3D space. You cannot go into this any of those communities without knowing of, at least minimally knowing of, Source 2 filmmaker, purple and black checkered textures, because those are funny. Generalized basic view model animations, like the crowbar one that you were talking about. That's I'm pretty sure that's just one in Gmod at the base, and that works with almost every single character. Since it's so open source and since it's built for other people to use it, other people have gone out and used it, and now it's almost synonymous with anything 3D.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure I am wrong that there's someone out there in the world that's done video game animation outside of a studio for a fan-made project that doesn't know of SFM, that doesn't know of all these Gmod or Valve made and just shared assets that you're able to freely use for anything in that way. I wish Tarkov was like that. I wish BSG was like that,
And maybe one day, as time progresses, it will ultimately become that through one way or another, and it'll be oh, that's the USEC 1 model. I know that game. That's that old game Tarkov back 20 years ago. I'm playing Fortnite 5 right now.
I just hope that BSG supports that sort of notion of people creating stuff with what they've done to just enjoy doing it. But I don't see that. I wish, and I can wish as much as I want. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I understand they want to protect their IP, and so I don't, I can see the struggles. I really think Tarkov content is growing, and I want to shout out, someone like Tulu, for example, who, to my knowledge, is one that sort of brought the storytelling aspect to Tarkov, and me thinking, I was like, man, you just can't tell stories like you can in Tarkov. I was thinking, or like you can in Rust, but I was thinking in very restricted terms of you can only tell the story of what's happening moment to moment. You can't tell a grander story. Whereas Tulu comes out with his how I made 25 million with just a Mosin, and got insane amount of views, and it was a great project. And I think Tarkov is moving towards that direction. These sort of more evergreen story-driven content.
For that content, you have to put yourself into a mindset of, I'm going to make a story over multiple raids, because it is really hard to do that and have the story actually be compelling. You can make a compelling story out of a single raid, like, you know, as long as it's a slightly, like, you can make it out of a slightly eventful raid. You can make a story out of it. You know, how I killed 5 guys. I decided to do, you know, fight them. I, you know, ran around here, did all this cool stuff, got another one, you know, ran away, didn't expect them to be there again, and I fought them again, and now I, you know, won the fight, and now I gotta get out. There's 3 scavs coming at me. There's a player scav to my left. I'm overweight. You know, I had to drop my bag. I had to do all this other cool stuff. I had to, you know, chuck nades, get switch guns because my gun ran out of ammo after shooting the 3 scavs, and this player scav's now trying to leg me with his keter, you know, all this other stuff. Like, it's not exactly hard to make a story out of a single raid, but the raids normally last like 25 minutes, the time of a video that is supposed to be a story. And it's really hard to do that. And over multiple raids, it's disjointed. There's, like, besides maybe scav boss, besides maybe a quest, besides maybe a ruble mount, there's not much else that you can go for a long-term goal.
Yeah,
in Tarkov,
it's really tough,
like you can do in Rust.
Yeah. As we've said before, it's just because partly you don't meet the same people again. You know, you have one interaction and then you either live or you die, and then that's it. You don't know who they are, and you, even if you meet them again, you wouldn't know. Whereas in Rust, it's that, and it really, a lot of these other games where you respawn and you're on a server, DayZ, Rust, you know, hell, even things like Minecraft, right? It's got you're in one server with a bunch of people, and then it's the same people over and over again. So it builds up a history and it builds up a story. Whereas in Tarkov, you never get that chance, because each fight and each interaction is kind of its own thing. Except maybe if you have a fight and then you don't kill the guy and you both run off, and then you find each other later and then end up having another fight. But it's such a small set of circumstances. It doesn't build that history or that tension or that rivalry or that friendship or any of it, really. And that's the problem at its core.
There's no build up.
But no, you're good. But I think there's still going to be a growth in storytelling. Absolutely, these things you guys are saying are correct, and that we, you know, but I think that I feel like the content's going to be shifting more towards telling relatable stories, and that might just be, you know, like people like Wellen, Aqua FPS. A lot of this is just like stream content, more or less recycled down to reduced down to a story, you know, like at Wellen, how he killed Gluehard doing this quest, but having that relatable story, like Tarkov is pain, Tarkov is suffering. Yes, Daddy, please give it to me. You know what I mean?
Very true, very true. You know, Thursday as well. Let's add that for good measure. I feel like, but like I said, all those are quest related, boss related.
Absolutely.
It's never something about, and it's something that is consistent with everyone's experience.
Yeah,
you've all fought Gluehard before, and you know how bullshit it is, you know, dying to a first bullet out of his M993 M1A to the head because he has aimbot and can see you through grass. Like, everyone has or can have a similar experience, whereas somewhere like Rust or like DayZ, you find a character who's another human being. You have no idea how they're going to act. They act a certain way, and someone might act similar, but they'll never act the same way as him. Whereas like a scav boss or a quest, you know, quest kill PMCs at 100 meters. The most unique take on Shooterborn Heaven would probably be mine, which is use a shotgun, you know, a gun known to be inaccurate, to do the most accuracy prone quest in the game. Like, and that's quote unquote creative, but it's hard to make any story outside of those 3 main categories.
Well, yeah, it's because the tools
and that's
that
the
we
growing
have.
pains that that's the growing pains that Tarkov's content creator has Tarkov's content creators, at least from how I see it, are going to have to go through and figure out how to work with that. Unless BSG with one of the new patches like 1.0, let's say, comes out and gives us all that content creators want. We get open world, consistent raids, or raids that go on longer than 50 minutes. That people are actually staying in and playing, and you'll meet not one but multiple people, and you'll be able to do all this other cool stuff. Until we get something like that, I think it's going to be the same content of quests, bosses, and PvP.
Yeah, and I think more of the ownership or responsibility is placed on the creator, and here's why. You were talking earlier. I'm kind of challenging you a bit, Evan, so bear with me.
All good. Go ahead, challenge me out. I love it.
You were saying hey, we're everyone's killed Gluhar. I've already experienced this. Whereas Rust, you can meet different people. You don't know how they're gonna act, things like this. And I agree that absolutely the player interaction is it's just so different than I obviously. Let me just RP with Gluhar real quick. It's not the same, you know what I mean? That uncertainty, the survival thing. However, I do feel like a lot in the Rust scene, it's I feel like I've seen a lot of the same content, because it's I've done raids, I've seen raids, I've defended raids, I've seen raids, I've gotten betrayed before, I've made friends with someone, but it's still someone like Z-Chum, for example, he did a really cool creative idea living under someone's base, and that is absolutely amplified by the fact that there's base building and there's you have this creative side of building bases and whatnot. Absolutely, it's amplified. But just taking that concept and running with a story and have it relate to the audience as well through whatever memes, friends, bamboozling victims into your base. I mean, it's really cool. So I have to say is I absolutely agree that I would love to be able to meet someone in a raid, try to interact with them, fill them out, go through that experience, see if we can work together, and then continue this small little story or large story. Maybe we became best friends and we went on, to interchange, to customs, to kill Rashala, grab a pistol, went back to interchange, talked to Ragman, bought some stuff. We did this epic adventure. That'd be awesome, man. But I really think content creators as a whole are I feel like there's a push towards this storytelling, and I'm just really excited to see what comes out of it, because I think there's a lot of potential, and as the game gets further developed and we get more of these tools, hopefully more of these evergreen content we can do with the game, I think it's just man, dude, with the 3D animation stuff thrown in there as well, oh, dude, I feel like I can see Tarkov climbing the ranks of the gaming content creation space and being that popular game.
I can definitely see your point on that. Yeah. I 100% see your point on that. It is half the work, or not half the work, 90% of the work is from the creator. You can have the greatest story you want, you throw it into Windows Movie Maker and get out something that's not up, quote unquote, up to par, up to standards. It's definitely partly on the content creator, but it's also the content itself.
Yeah.
And Tarkov content creators are going to have to work through the growing pains of that if they want to do that sort of style of content. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yes, it's very interesting from a content perspective. I think Tarkov actually works pretty well from a player perspective in that sense, for the most part. They've been expanding out and making it take longer to get to various milestones in the game, but you get quite a lot of incremental safe progression through the hideout, which keeps players engaged, at least until that's completed. But once you get to that point, there's actually not that many really big wins that you get once you've kind of got to that level. You almost need things like what's coming, right? Where labs is locked behind another map, so you need to go through one map to get to the next map, and it's that kind of string of. It's almost like quests like the guide, but sort of toned down a little bit. So the good loot's over here, but you need to go through, you need to invest something. You need to go through 3 maps to get it. Because right now in Tarkov, we know it's not going to be like that, but it's, oh, you want the best loot? You just click on the map with the best loot and go there, right? This is so easy. Whereas having some kind of more progressive type of, oh, well, you start in customs and that's easy. That's where your home base is, but there's not much loot. And then you go further out, but there are less traders. You can't buy as much stuff. You need to be more prepared. You need to bring more things with you to go further away from like your home base. That's kind of what Tarkov needs, I think, to drive that kind of stuff. And I think Streets is going to be a big part of this just because the raids are going to be really long from what they've said, at least. I mean, I don't know what they're going to, I think they're keeping the raid timer, but I think they're going to be 2 hours or something. I don't know. So you'll need to be prepared and actually bring multiple, I guess, like multiple amounts of like food and water and ammo or whatever if you're killing lots of scavs or if you're going on these really long raids. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. So but I think we're only going to see that once we get Streets, once we get closer to release, and it may take a long time, but I think we will get there. I think it's just literally a matter of time, and who knows when with the milestones. But we are slowly getting there. We'll get there one day. I'm certain. It's just whether it'll be in 2, 3, 4 times the time that they say. Maybe.
Only BSG will know. Only BSG will know.
Yeah, exactly. And whether they even know. I mean,
yeah, it's very true, very true. They might not even know.
Exactly. I mean, I was wondering, like we were just saying before about like the cameras and that kind of thing. I almost wonder whether Arena might make them consider doing that more, to get good coverage of tournaments and that kind of thing, having free cam within Arena. If they build those tools out there and people start making sick content for Arena and they, zoom in on like final kill, because they've got like an Arena commentator like that we saw in the video. There's like, it's kind of some shoutcaster who's like hyping up what's going on in the Arena, and people are going there voluntarily into this kind of gladiatorial Thunderdome. It'd be awesome if they make some tools there for that, for the tournaments. So you could have like the final kills. It's like, people like making stuff in slow-mo or whatever, and then maybe they think, wow, this is actually sick, and we'll transition it over. They've changed their mind before, so it'd be a great place to try it and put it in and say, okay, take these tools and do stuff, because we're scared to touch actual Tarkov. But Arena is kind of Tarkov beta because we can fiddle around there, and it's like it's less super serious and more esportsy, so we can do things that we can't in the main game.
I never thought of that currently. I will definitely put that down in my notes of what I want in that, and I hope they do. I legitimately hope they do, because that is literally a perfect place to put it, as it's not just for content creators who want to do that, who can use that. If you want to spectate someone, and see how their playstyle is and watch how they're, doing it, I feel like Arena would be the best place to put that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think of that. That, in my opinion, that's probably the best place where they should start that stuff.
Yeah. And it would be awesome. And then even there, you could have the tools that you were talking about previously. You could have them in Arena.
Right. And it could spill out into the other game, like you were saying. Like, I legitimately hope now that actually that's what they do.
Yeah.
With, Arena, they have that. Or they have free cam and playbacks and other stuff to be able to see what's happening, and then eventually roll that out into the main game. Whether all those features will come to the main game, I don't know, but I mean, I hope at least something does.
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't think about that genius thought, Giga.
Yeah, that was a very good connection. I didn't even think of that.
Oh wow. These random thoughts, sometimes they're good.
Yeah, man, now I'm just excited for Arena even more, because now I can at least hope. Nothing's been said on this, but at least now I can hope for that to maybe happen.
Exactly.
I mean, it makes
for the
sense.
most likely plays.
Makes sense, man. If this is gonna be the esport Arena Tarkov thing, they're gonna want to do some events, drive some business. Have a big promo on Twitch. They're gonna have multi perspectives, free cam, switching back and forth. I mean, you guys seen some different esports events, I'm sure. High production. I'm sure Invasion is totally interested in this type of talk as well. So yeah, that'd be really cool.
Hope Invasion is talking with BSG about this, because I know they have a direct line to them. And if not, I mean, maybe they should. I would love to see this stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely love it.
Well, Evan, thanks so much for coming on, dude. It's been an absolute blast. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for inviting me.
My pestering DMs of like, hey, we have this podcast. You should come on.
This was extremely fun. First time I've been on a podcast, so this is awesome. I will definitely do this again if you guys want to do this again. I've had a ton of fun today, just hanging out, chilling, and talking with people who enjoy Tarkov. It is awesome.
Yeah, dude, it's good. Yeah. It's good. Thank you, and especially coming from a different slant as well. The realm, the shadow beyond, the realm of the thumbnail. You just see the gleaming Bitcoin and just think, how? But how?
Yeah, yes.
Excellent.
Mostly animation, but Penguin's the one who's been doing a bunch of thumbnails, and he's crazy. He's crazy with how much work he's willing to get out with. Grinding like crazy.
I know there was some shout outs you gave earlier. Is there any other people you want to shout out, or any plugs you want to drop in before we close her up?
I will just say this before we close up. If you are interested and willing to put in the time to at least learn a bit beforehand of like Blender or whatever 3D software you want to use, and then just if you get stuck, send someone within the community that you see doing 3D art and thumbnails a message, asking, hey, how do you do this? That's probably the best way to get into anything that we do and just start up, because at least from what I know, I mean, you can message me, you can message anyone else in the community. Most people are going to answer. It may take a day or two, but normally send a message on Twitter, like in DMs, as much as Twitter's a meme. Most of the time in there is where we say hi to most people. Discord, at least for me, is you have to add me as a friend to be able to send me a message. Definitely, if you want to reach out and just say hi or learn a little bit more about this stuff and are willing to put in the time and effort to do so, send anyone in the community a message. At least I am glad to help, and I hope everyone else is glad to help as well. This is what we do. Yeah. Besides that, thank you for having me on your podcast. This is extremely fun.
It was a blast.
So where can people find you then? Are you mainly just Discord, or your Twitter as well?
I'm mainly, so if you want to publicly find me, I'm mainly on Twitter. Yeah, I would say my Twitter handle is @GigaFirst. It's really easy. So GIGO1ST. And you can find me on Twitter. I have an Instagram. There's nothing posted on there. I have a YouTube, and there's not much posted on there. There's like a couple animations and a couple of other stuff. But normally I'm active on Twitter for public things, and then anything commission-wise or art-wise, if you want me to do some art, it's normally done over Twitter, at least at the beginning, and then we'll move to Discord. So yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Sounds good. Right. Thanks again, and I guess we'll close up, JJ.
Yep. Right. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Support's been awesome, and we'll see you next week.
Later on.
Bye.